Hello everyone, this is this week's edition of The Good, The Bad, The TNA. This is for TNA Impact Wrestling for June 2nd, 2011. And to be honest, the show was filled with hits and misses. It wasn't really a necessarily bad show. It wasn't necessarily a good show either. It had a lot of hits, it had a lot of misses, it had a lot of areas that they could have done a little bit better on this week. Yeah, you started off the show with Eric Bischoff getting papers from the network, and he's immediately thinking he's going to be fired. And I'll get into that at the later into this episode here. But after that, they cut right to Velvet Sky and ODB brawling throughout the backstage, which eventually leads out into the ring, and ODB gets the better of this brawl. Honestly, this was a pretty good brawl between the two of them. It wasn't too bad. It wasn't great, but it was pretty good. Not too bad. I'll go ahead and stick with the women on this aspect. Later in the night, you had Angelina Love versus versus Miss Tessmacher, and it was essentially a squash match to put over Angelina Love for her match with Mickie James at the pay-per-view. Honestly, I would have liked to have seen Mickie James come out afterwards and help out Tessmacher, but no Mickie James this week. And honestly, I thought that was not for the better there. It would have been better to have Mickie James come out and help out, just to get some interaction between her and Angelina Love, because the only interaction they've had so far was last week when Angelina Love snapped and attacked Mickie. So I wish they would have actually had Mickie come out this week. Gonna check my notes here. You had Crimson versus Matt Hardy. Pretty good back and forth match. Nothing great. A little bit slow of a match. Crimson winning, keeping his undefeated streak going. And once again, in this aspect, once again, Samoa Joe comes out to attack Crimson. Crimson gets the better of him this week. It was nothing more than like a 2-second interaction between the two. I wish they would have tried to have them brawl for a little bit longer, or take up a little bit more time with this interaction here to try to further their storyline and make people actually want to care about this match coming up at the pay-per-view. Now they have next week to do that as well, but it felt like it would have been better for this show if they would have had that interaction between the two of them. You have Mr. Anderson, of course, still dressing up as Sting, trying to play mind games with Sting and everything like that. So he tries to bring back the past, doing a Great Muta thing. It would be Anderson versus Eric Young, who's dressed up as the Great Muta. And essentially Anderson's just doing this for head games, trying to show that, you know, Sting's not so great. He's going to win this match at the pay-per-view. And this week it backfires on him. Gunter comes out to distract Eric Young, and eventually he distracts the referee, which allows Eric Young to spray the mist and get the pin. So, yeah, Anderson had a thing to try to play mind games, but it backfired this week. After the match, the two of them were attacking Eric Young, brings out the real Sting, and he helps clear house. And next week you're going to have Gunter and Anderson versus Sting and Eric Young. So that should be a bit interesting. Not too bad to further on the storyline for Sting and Anderson. So not a bad segment there. I'm going to check my notes again. Next you had Kendrick and Kaz. They were going to fight over the #1 contendership for the X Division title, which honestly should just go to Kaz anyway, because he needs his rematch. But they do that. They initially fight to a time limit draw, and then they give them 5 more minutes. Abyss comes out and attacks them, and attacks both of them, causing a no contest. It looks like they are probably going to try to make it a triple threat match, and this has also been a pretty good way of showing that Abyss still wants to continually destroy the X Division, try to kill the X Division, to try to get rid of it from TNA altogether. So not a bad segment there. It furthered that storyline. I liked what they did there. I'm going to go off to the main event or at least the main event match, which was Jeff Jarrett and Scott Steiner versus Matt Morgan and Kurt Angle. Honestly, it was an okay match. It wasn't anything great in that aspect. The one thing that made it really become a big downer, which was at the end you had what was it? You had Kurt chasing Jeff up the rampway and put him in the ankle lock. Karen comes back out and tries to pull Kurt off, which eventually he does, and starts backing down Karen, and Jeff attacks him from behind. He runs into Karen, and she falls down a flight of stairs. Of course, you don't see her fall down there. That's what you just got to assume. Honestly, I didn't like having that type of angle in there. I would have liked to have seen something where what they've been doing with Karen over the past few weeks, which is just kick her out of ringside for their match at the pay-per-view instead of trying to just take her out of the match altogether. It would have been a little bit more interesting to see on pay-per-view where Jeff Jarrett comes down with, or Karen comes down with Jeff Jarrett, and then the referee just kicks Karen out and leaving them two to a one-on-one match. But it looks like that's how they're going to try to get rid of Karen. I'm not sure that's how they're going. I'm not sure if that's actually going to, or Karen will come back for the pay-per-view. But that's how that segment ended, and honestly, it was somewhat well done. The interaction between Jeff and Kurt wasn't too bad there, but it kind of just felt. I'm trying to search for words here. It just kind of felt rushed for what they were doing. It didn't seem like it really fit in with what they were doing, because up until this point they really had not gotten Karen too involved in the physicality of the entire angle, and now they throw that in there right here at the last second. So it wasn't bad, but I don't think it was really necessary for what they did. Off to what ended the show, which was that piece of paper that Eric Bischoff got. Eventually, Hogan comes out, and they decide to open up the piece of paper. They start reading it, and Eric Bischoff this whole time was thinking he was going to be fired from TNA Wrestling, but the network goes off and decides to fire Mick Foley instead. So Mick Foley was the network executive for all of 3 weeks, I think. He came in on the pay-per-view and didn't even last to the next pay-per-view, so what was the point of them having him be the network executive if they were just going to fire him so quickly? I don't get what they were trying to do, unless they're bringing Foley in another angle or another way for coming in to try to screw over Hogan and Bischoff here, but I'm not seeing what the point was of them actually just firing him as network executive this week or so soon after they made it happen on TV. That's pretty much all I got for you. Like I said, this was an okay show. It wasn't a great show by any stretch of the imagination. I probably wouldn't even have called it a good show. I'm just calling it okay. So that was the good, the bad, the TNA this week. Thank you guys for watching.